Well, I was just saying to our guest before we began recording that this is going to be one of the most interesting, I think anyway, career trajectories we've yet seen on the OHL podcast. And that includes the doctor we just had on a couple of weeks back. The OHL podcast is, of course, presented by Matt Smith Goaltending. For a personal and individualized approach to goaltending, train where elite goaltenders are created. Check them out online at mattsmithgoaltending.com. Cameron Lizotte, our guest on the podcast this week. First and foremost, thank you very much for making time in your day to chat with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
When we think of Cameron Lizotte in the Ontario Hockey League, I'm not going to lie, some of the first pages that come up are big body checks or hockey fights, and the transition to where you are today is incredible. But let's start on the hockey side and even take it back, because I wonder if those roots in the Nickel City in Sudbury are where that kind of rough and tumble style of hockey comes from, Cameron.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up in Sudbury, we always knew we had to maybe we all were already labeled as the rough and tough. When we would travel to Toronto all the time, and there were high school teams. And one of the ways for us to stay in a game was, yeah, let's be rough and let's get them off their game because, yeah, going to the DGHL my whole life for hockey, and yeah, we had to fight hard to kind of show our spot.
Did you have a welcome to the OHL moment that you can recall as a member of the Peterborough Petes?
Like a good welcoming kind of like this is it, you're
Yeah, like
here.
now I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It was one of the first games of the year. I laid the body. I never did research of who was the best player in the team, or I just said if you're on the ice with me, I'm gonna play hard, right? And I laid a massive hit on Hui on Belleville, and he was one of the skill players. And after that happened, Marshman said, hey, we have to go now. It's time to fight. I never fought in my life. Like I'm off the ice, it's not who I am. It's never been kind of my identity, but I love to throw physical hits. So next thing you know, and Marshman's like, no, like we have to go. Like we're fighting. And I told him, okay, like let's wait till next period. So period ends. I'm in the locker room and I'm talking to Nick Ritchie and stuff. I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, hey, punch him more than he punches you. I was like, okay, well, that's one thing, Like, luckily, I had two brothers that kind of definitely like I played rough with them growing up, and being the youngest, I definitely had to play a little harder. But I think that was it, man. Like Marshman, we had to go toe to toe, center ice off the face off. And I was like, hey, I guess this is what happens now. Because I used to do this all my life, throw the big body checks and, the game continues. But now it's like, no, there's repercussions from it. And I learned that, yeah, no, this is now semi-pro hockey, and gotta learn to defend yourself.
I was going to say, but it makes sense because you hit the skill guy, you have to go against the tough guy. They don't come much tougher than that at the time in
Yeah.
the OHL than Marchman, right?
Yeah, I know. He was 2 years older, like 2 inches taller, 20 pounds heavier, experience. And no, I stood my own, and it was a big kind of proof to me that, I could take one and give two back. And it definitely took off.
You mentioned your brothers growing up. Can we go back to that for a bit? The Lizotte brothers look like a pretty interesting crew even to this day, Cameron.
Yeah, no. We're really thankful that in our basement we had this little like concrete room, and we could just do whatever with it. And we did ball hockey, and they would throw me in net. I was just a net. I was stuck into being net my whole life at home. I had to be in net. So yeah, it was a lot of that, but definitely like my middle brother Marco, he loved the game like I did, and he was trying to um, achieve his goals same as me, like make it to the NHL. So having him as an older person going for the same things, that pushed me hard. And he wonders like why I was able to keep up. Well, I played a year out my whole life was because I was training with him. If it wasn't for my brother Marco, like he was the hardest worker. He wanted more than I did. Looking back at it, and so to have him constantly like pushing me, and he was the same physical player, that just led me to kind of fill in his shoes.
So if you always had to be the goalie in that concrete room in the basement, obviously you didn't move far position wise as a defenseman, but how did you eventually get out and start, playing as a skater?
Yeah, no. It's funny. Yeah, my oldest brother's a goalie, and I guess when I was growing up, I would like I'd cry to my dad. I want to be goalie. I want to be in net. I wouldn't want to go to practice if I wasn't goalie. And my dad like would have to trick me, like, oh no, this is a game. Like we're going to play a game. And I would show up. It would be practice, and I'd have to practice as a player. And I wanted to be goalie so bad. All probably up until I was maybe like 6, 7 years old. I just wanted to be in net, but goalies are quite the individual. So I think my dad did a good job kind of saying, hey, we have one goalie in the family. We can't be having two. So I do thank him for that.
Yeah, and having goaltenders as kids playing the game, that ain't cheap either.
No, definitely not. Yeah, like I said, looking back, he did a good choice. Like, geez, that would have been a lot.
So I always wonder about, I mean, watching this game and you're 15, 16 years old, you get drafted into the Ontario Hockey League. Peterborough is not exactly next door to Sudbury. I know all the kids make a move at some point, but what's that like for you at that age, all of a sudden being that far away from home and starting out your hockey career?
Yeah, like you think this is like a dream come true, right? Like, oh, cool, I'm moving away from home. I just turned 16. My birthday was late August, so as soon as my birthday hit, would always be training camp. And so, I moved away at 16, and of course, the first few weeks is just a dream. You're just soaking everything in, and you don't really realize maybe the effects it has on you as a kid moving away from home. You're definitely distracted by the game of hockey and the whole excitement around it. But definitely, it takes a toll. Like my family, you don't realize at the time, but they're like your support system. Like you just have it your whole life, so you maybe take it for granted. You have that support, but when you left, I didn't have that anymore. Of course, you have the phone calls, and they went to almost every game. My parents were so great to travel through the storms. Like, oh, they're so dedicated, and I always appreciate the love that they've given me. And but yeah, no, it's definitely has its time, like its tolls. Like as a kid, not having your family, and you just have to lean on your brothers, your brothers, as in your teammates. And yeah, thankfully, of course, you need to have those good friends on your team that kind of push you through the things, because you're going through the same stuff. Like the first game of the year, you get told you're not playing. Like I'm crying. Like I'm crying in the showers because like that's all I wanted. This is why I'm here. Why aren't I playing? It hurts, and you give it your all, and yeah, it definitely is tough at moments, but you have a dream and a goal in hand, and you gotta stay focused. But I can't complain too much, because I know some players that, let's say their billet situation was tough, or they didn't have the family visiting all the time. So yeah, I definitely didn't have it the worst, but yeah.
Did you feel then, Cameron, like once you got into the lineup on a regular basis that you kind of made it? Because that's got to be a milestone if you're not playing in your first game.
Of course, yeah. Like
Yeah.
yeah, my first year in the OHL was tough. Matt Spencer was drafted ahead of me. He was like third overall or something, second overall. So he was a defenseman as well. And then they drafted me second round. And we had a veteran line. And, if some of the guys didn't have the best game, they stuck with their vets. They really stuck with their vets till there was maybe injuries or something. So it was a lot of balancing around. Like they said, oh, we're going to send you to junior B to kind of so you get to play. So I signed this contract, which meant I had to wear a cage when I played in the OHL, but then they never sent me to junior B. So the only thing that changed was me wearing a cage, and I was a physical player. So I don't want to get into that too much. Like, but yeah, like that the stuff like that is tough. You feel you're being held back, and you just want to show what you got. Yeah.
In Peterborough, as a defenseman, how much did those square corners that we talk about so much drive you crazy?
Yeah, that's funny. I'll never forget those corners. I think this is like something I took in life too. It's just like you take your net, like you take what you think is maybe an obstacle, you kind of try to use it as your advantage. Always look at something negative and try to find the positives within it. Of course, they were square as heck, but luckily I got to study them. I had to practice there, right? So I think it was worse for other guys that had to come in, because I really knew the bounces. I kind of like kept that in mind of how to rim the puck. You can't just rim it. Sometimes you just rim it around the boards and come to the net. It would like scoop. So you definitely have to practice a bit of that, and they were hard boards, and I didn't have much give back like the new ones do. These ones were like stiff, and so you heard the hits, you really did, and um, and I hit them too, so I got to feel what they felt like. But it was fun kind of delivering on the other side of it.
Didn't they remind you a little bit then, though, of the boards back home in Sudbury where you played growing up? Because those boards, as I recall, didn't have a lot of give in them either.
No, they're frozen, man. Yeah, like I played in a place called Levac, and if anybody from Sudbury knows where Levac is, it's a cold rink, and yeah, the ice is the hardest ice you'll ever play on, and yeah, no, those are the things that I guess maybe Sudbury kind of built me up for Peterborough. Yeah.
Exactly. Do you get a kick out of Letterkenny and Shoresy if you check them out at
I
all? I
love
think
it. I
that's
love it. I
badge of
love it.
honor, right?
I love it. I recently watched Shoresy. I didn't watch it when it soon came out. I heard people talk about it, and then I jumped on it later. I love it. I love it. Like a friend of mine who's starring in it. My brother actually refed in the background. So because my brother's an OHL ref now, and yeah, it's kind of cool seeing some familiar faces and seeing where the scenes are at. You know where this is, and this is, and they're even saying the same words, like the same bars in town. They're calling it the same names, right? So they're not changing much. So if you're from Sudbury and know anything about it, it's really cool. Yeah, it brings you home.
It must have felt at least like a little bit more of a homecoming when you got traded from Peterborough to Barrie. That's about as close as you can get, I guess, with the exception of North Bay to being back home if you're a Sudbury boy.
Yeah, yeah, no, and Barrie was awesome. Like Barrie was, one of the best teams in the league, and is central. Traveling's the best there, and I really enjoyed playing in Barrie. Barrie was the owner, the coaches. Like I got the honor to be coached by Howard Chuck. So get to know Howard Chuck. That was really really cool. And that was when I was starting to get in my fashion there. So he was even interested. I remember him pulling me in, and I'm like, "Am I in shit?" And then he'd be like, "No, like, what are you doing at home? Like, what's this? What are the guys talking about?" Like, so he was definitely curious and supportive of what I was like trying to take on.
That
Mhm.
must have meant the world to you at the time, Cameron. Maybe even just looking back, because I'm thinking about, not only are you a hockey player, but you're a guy that's known for his physicality, playing that tougher style. And yet, like, that doesn't
Yeah,
marry with fashion, right? But to have a coach, especially a Hall of Famer like Dale Howardchuk,
yeah,
expressing interest and supporting you must have meant a ton.
for sure. Like, he had a really wide perspective on life, and you could tell he lived a good life, man, and he's seen so much, and he's been able to teach so many kids under him of what he learned, and yeah, and I always kind of appreciate the things he kind of taught us, and he's yeah one of the best coaches, and even like the owner Howie. Um, I just went to him, and I brought a couple pieces I made, and I just said, hey, this is what I do. Any chance I could sell my clothes during the games? And he's just baffled. He's like, wait, you sewed all this, like people in fashion. A lot of people think like, oh, you get someone to make it for you, you know, like a little print. They're expecting like you put a print on a T-shirt, and then you're like, hey, I'm a designer, but I was truly like creating it from scratch. Unique fabrics, and he was yeah, it was funny seeing his reaction because he was so surprised, but he didn't hesitate. He was like, no, like if you want to sell your stuff during the games, let's do it. So I had a second cousin who lived in Barrie, and got her to run the booth, and I would run upstairs after the game to see how sales went. And so looking back, that's so cool. Like I don't think a player has ever done that. I've heard a few players kind of start a little brand, but like they're not making it themselves. It's not true couture, and that's what I'm going for.
That's absolutely amazing. So let's stay on that for a minute. I mean, we have to talk about an OHL championship still too, but because you're talking about what you were able to do in Barrie and that experience, and so cool to hear that Howie was as supportive as Dale was as the coach. But at that age, Cameron, and in the OHL, if you've got dreams of playing pro, my perspective on this game and talking to a lot of guys like you, it's eat, sleep hockey, and maybe you work in a little bit of studying here and there. How did you find time and where did it all start? You're like 18, 19 years old, you're doing this.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, honestly, like, yeah, we have more time than people think, like we just have to work hard within those hours. You know, like another thing how Howard Chuck said was like, this job allows us, you just have to work a few hours of the day, then you're good. You don't have to work 9 to 5. You don't want to get to that 9 to 5. What he means is like, usually an average day, you go to the rink, you work out for 2 hours, you do a bit of therapy, and then, you go home, and then you have practice in the afternoon. And then unless you have some um, kind of get together kind of stuff for the team, you're off for the nights usually, unless it's like on weekends. So most of the guys, they got into video games. It's really big in the hockey culture, like because we have to rest our bodies, right? They don't want coach doesn't want us running around after we just trained, right? So um, I was at home a lot, and it was either be more social or yeah, play video games. But I just kind of like dedicated my time to just let's make a piece. It would take me 10 hours, but I was just obsessed. It was something to kind of get my mind off things. With hockey, like we talked about, things wasn't going my way completely. Like I wasn't playing, and I was wearing the cage about half the year, and so I felt like my hands were tied at points. So I think the sewing was something for me to kind of let go. Like I have all the control in the world type thing. There's no mistakes. It's because if I made a mistake on the ice, I'm benched. Like like there's not much room for error as a rookie. And so being a rookie on a sewing machine, I could screw up all I want, and I could learn from it. And that was the beauty of it. I can make mistakes. It's okay. So yeah, I had a great joy like discovering the start of it. It was just me in my head. I would before bed, I would take clothing apart in my head and put it back together. And if I ran into a problem, I would back it up. So it's funny. Like I watched Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you saw that. I always tell people, I'm like, that's me without the pills. Like I was able to kind of see it before bed and kind of visualize it to the point where it was so vivid and real, where I knew what it was going to look like before I finished it. So when you have those fresh ideas in your head and you just want to bring them to life, there's nothing else you want to do but to bring those ideas to life so you can move forward.
How did you first discover that within you, Cameron? Was there, I mean, I'm thinking at that age, maybe a teacher that helped draw it out of you, or what was your introduction to a sewing machine?
Definitely, teachers is important. Important, like having motivated, inspiring teachers is huge, because the teachers I had in art at Thomas A. Stewart and Peterborough were so supportive, so like yeah, I keep in contact with them till today. Like I like once a month I talk to them. My sewing teacher and my mixed medium arts teacher. These women really like this, like kind of they saw kind of what I was doing, and they really protected me from that, because a lot of people definitely the chirping, like of course it's a little different, someone's sewing, but thank God I was tough. Thank God I had a big beard, because people didn't really want to say much when I started. They were quiet. I think if I was maybe a goalie, they maybe would have chirped me a little bit more. But the fact that I was the rough bearded man, I think they kind of just sat back and watched. Yeah.
I wondered about that because, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a, 17, 18-year-old kid with all of the peer pressure that's associated with that. If you're not a hockey player, and then you're a hockey player in the OHL of all things, and there's almost an image or a stereotype that you have to live up to. And no offense, but sewing is not that.
Yeah, yeah, of course, and just arts in general. Like we're just hockey. Like I thought everyone watched hockey when I was little. I thought the whole world watched hockey. I didn't realize that there's more to life. There's other things that people are interested in. I grew up. My life was hockey, man. Like till I left Peterborough, like Sudbury. Like that's all I knew. I was born on skates. My older brothers played hockey. That's all I really aspired to be, was a hockey player. And once I moved to Peterborough and kind of got exposed to different things, and yeah, like it's different, but people like to talk a lot and they don't show it. So it's easy to say, like he's all talk, or it's just a dream or something. But I you just put your head down and work, and next thing you know it, I have all these pieces. Half my team is wearing my stuff. Um, and yeah, you have no choice but to call me a designer. And it was really cool to kind of show the guys that yeah, you kind of like we could do anything we want. You know, like if you put your mind to it, you can really do it. Mm-hmm.
How tough was it being traded? You were traded twice, from Peterborough to Barrie, then from Barrie down to Erie. At that age, how tough is it?
Um, it would have been tougher if I didn't want to go, but I was in a position where I just felt that we weren't gonna try. You know, I felt like we were okay with just being okay, and that bothered me. I'm driven, you know. I'm really driven, and um, I think looking back, I had a crazy anxiety of the team was just not going for it, um, and with with the cage thing in the first year, and uh, yeah, like I think I had my time was up there to the point where I wasn't loving the game as much anymore. I was falling out of love, and so I asked for a trade, kind of because I was worried for myself and my mental health, and so I wanted to kind of go home for a bit and reset and hopefully like a fresh start. And they weren't able to give me that, unfortunately. I don't blame them. I think I was a decent player. So yeah. uh, no, I'm kidding, but yeah, they wouldn't let me go. So I kind of like made a decision to head home, and they had to trade me at that point. And looking back, a lot of guys I think would have done what I did. And people say, "Oh, that's crazy courageous of you to do that," but I was just trying to be happy. Like I said, I was looking out for my mental health, and I just needed to kind of like be with family and find why I'm losing love out of the game. I was distracted. So getting traded to Barrie, it was an awesome news. I was like, hey, awesome! Like my career can keep going, and a new chapter can begin. Um, I was running out of pages in my last chapter, so Barrie was amazing. I got there. They're a good team. Like it always helps when they're a good team. Half the team's already signed to the NHL. Like, you have LeBanc, you have Macwood, you have Rasmus Anderson, you have Mangiapane. The list goes on, man. Like we had a hell of a team, and so it was a really good fresh start for me. And yeah, I could see being traded can be difficult for different situations, but for me, I was happy to be closer to home and happy to have a kind of different, a fresh start. Yeah.
If you had a hell of a team in Barrie, you almost had the stuff of super team in Erie with those 4 straight 50-win seasons, and you're there for the championship in
Yeah.
17. You're walking onto a team with what? DeBrincat, Strome, Radishes. I mean,
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. We had Chernak. We traded for Sorelli. We had Fogel. Amazing team. I remember like when we went for it in Barrie, we lost to Niagara in the quarter semifinals, and then next year we lost everybody. And now now I'm the vet all of a sudden. Like, and we were. It was funny because I used to say like, we were in the basement. We were the last place team in the league. We were one of the last place teams, Barrie. And then when I got traded to Erie, I was like, wow, going to the basement to the rooftop. Like, I remember that's what I said. Like, and that was another thing. Like, I wasn't like my agent asked me like, would you hate it if you got traded? I was like, I'm going. I'll like to go for playoffs. Like I always, I'm ready for that. And I knew that I was a unique player. There wasn't much players like me in the league. It was definitely my genre is defleeting. Like kind of, it's not really seen in hockey as much. That rough and tough player. It's getting more and more skilled. I forget. I can't even say his name, but the guy in Montreal. I love him. I love him. Like,
Oh, Jack-Eye.
yeah, Jacka. I
Yeah.
love him. I love his story, and he's definitely one of my favorite players. But yeah, like so being that's why I got traded. They needed more toughness, and so they even put me forward in Erie. They're like, hey, like we need you to bang on the defense. So like they threw me up first game in Owen Sound. I had no idea what I was doing, no idea. And then after the game, the coach was like, "You did awesome." I'm like, "Sweet, good, I'll keep doing it." But yeah, so it was fun being like I was definitely used. My body was used to kind of for playoffs and everything. Barry did the same, and then when I got to Erie, they really utilized me for my toughness. And um, yeah, I was so thankful that they gave me a chance for that team because I knew they already won 3 seasons of 50 wins, and wow, to be on that team for 6 months, I'm very thankful because I don't know, maybe they would have won without me, but you know, the hell of a team, and so thankful for that part. Yeah.
Yeah, no, looking back, every piece was needed, Cameron. So you were absolutely required for that championship.
Yeah, people all the time. When the group photo came out of the us around the trophy, people in the comments kept saying, "Who let their dad in the photo?" You know, like because I'm the guy. I grew out my beard for the playoffs, and yeah, and there's even like T-shirts. People made T-shirts, "Fear the Beard," so that was being printed in Erie. So it was funny.
That's awesome. I understand too. You talk about the team gathering around the trophy for that photo. I understand there was like a group chat between a bunch of the guys on the team. Were you part of that?
Like the
Like a
group
text
chat.
message group or something?
Right. Um, yeah, if I'll be honest, there was a few chats,
Okay.
like there was a chat I think that was really dedicated for the NHL guys. I wasn't on the chat, so maybe I don't know, but I heard there was there was a chat for like the all the elite guys on the team, and there's he definitely like Strom was I think Strom was amazing for this as a captain. He would mingle with everyone, like he would make sure that he was not a part of a clique. Because some guys definitely were maybe a little cliquey, but Strom was really good about making sure that he checks in with everyone, hangs out with everybody, like he would hang out with anyone, like just kind of do his rounds, make sure everyone's good and everyone's on the same goal and page. So Strom was a really amazing captain for that. But yeah, no, there was a few group chats, but yeah, I don't think I was on the NHL one.
Do you still keep in touch with the guys from that championship team? Any of them?
Yeah, definitely. Strom, DeBrincat, probably the two most. They support me with what I'm doing a lot, and I appreciate that. Yeah, like TJ Fergus, he was one of my close friends in the team. Um, yeah, a bunch of the guys, There's definitely a few guys that you're like, what is he up to? I haven't heard of him or he's not on social media. So yeah, like names I think of is like Gurney. What's Gurney doing? I even forget his first name. Some kids like you love to check in and see how they're doing. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Some of the guys use their social media to help promote the stuff that you were making. Have you sent anything to Brinkat or any of the other guys in the pros?
Yeah. Actually, just recently, just after my Hockey Day in Canada feature, a few of them reached out saying, "Hey, I'm proud of you. That's awesome, awesome story." And so, yeah, I send them a little gift to Brinkat and Strom. So
Nice.
yeah, I take care of them. I recently got reached out to some NBA people, so I don't want to talk too much on that. I don't want to jinx anything, but might be sneaking into the NBA, which is good because they're very, very stylish and can definitely wear almost anything.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll keep our eyes out for that. On the hockey side, you mentioned with Barry getting knocked out in the semis by Niagara. The London Knights gave you guys a scare in, I think it was the second round, that 17 playoff, where it went 7. What do you remember of the series?
Oh, I felt like we won. When we beat London that game, we won the whole thing. We knew we won the whole thing. Of course, Owen Sound was a good fight, but and even Mississauga, they won a game against us that we were maybe too cocky. Uh, but yeah, London was. It's funny because the guy I played with Barry with Carbonera, Adrian Carbonera, he was another kind of rough and tough guy. Loved to. He was a bit more pesty than I was. I wasn't much of a talker. I'm very classy by the way I play. I play hard. I kind of resemble my game off Cornwall. But he was, we were best friends on Barry, but on London, and I was on Erie. He hit me hard in the head. Like he said sorry after the game a few times because he was like playing a little too rough, and we laugh about it now. But yeah, it's no joke, man. Like we were best friends off the ice, but on the ice, like he was ready to kill me. Because he knew that I was that guy on my team, and he had to make sure that he was going to try to show dominance, like make sure that, there's no intimidation going on. So it was a battle, man. And all those players, I can't even, don't know where to start. London too, were stacked. So to beat them, yeah, we definitely celebrated like we won the whole thing. Yeah.
Well, at that point, you basically did. There's still the big green monster in the league, that's for sure. What was the
Definitely.
Memorial Cup experience like for you?
Uh, Amazing. I definitely wished it wasn't in Windsor, because like I was like, I already been to Windsor. Like let's go to Halifax. Let's go across the world. I was so excited to see a new place. But no, like Windsor, it was an awesome time there. And of course, heartbreaking finish. We felt like we were robbed. I was playing through, broken ribs, dislocated shoulder. Strome was playing through a bunch of, like, our team was, yeah, we went through playoffs, and to play a team that we're rested and we're still a strong team. And the goalie, DiPietro, oh my God, we ran into the hottest goalie, which doesn't help. And so, yeah, heartbreaking finish, because we felt like we truly deserved it. But yeah, it was good. It was good. It just sucked. By that time, my shoulder came out 4 times within a year. So tough guys in the other team, I was so excited to maybe do a big memorial fight. I couldn't. I had to tell the guys, my shoulder's done. Like, I'll be playing rough out here, but yeah, I can't drop the gloves because I'll have to fight with one arm.
That
Yeah.
sounds a little bit like that code we often hear about between guys that play the style of game that you play. There's as tough as it is and as demanding as it is physically, there's a respect there, isn't there?
Most of the time, yes, big respect. Even one of the most respectful guys, I think, was Bell off Ottawa. Get his first name, but he was Captain Bell. He was like, he would wait for you. He would wait for you off the ice as you walk by, because you have to kind of cross the same path. He'd be like, "Oh, hey man, any chance we could go in the next period? My team's kind of like need some energy. I'll fight you in your hometown next time." Like that casual. And I was like, coach says like not today. So there's definitely a big level of respect. I think the toughest guys who do this job are like that, because yeah, we understand the kind of stresses we have to go through. Like, if I knew I had to fight the next day, I wouldn't sleep much. I would practice in my head different scenarios, thousand scenarios of how a fight could go and how I would react, because it happens so fast, right? And the more fights you do, the slower time goes. So like if you ever look at my first fight, I'm just punching. And my last fight, you have these moves, you have combos, and you kind of get better at it. Um, yeah, there's some guys I know that their only fight was against me. They said, I fought you, and then I said this wasn't for me. Yeah, it's definitely a tough role to play, but that's why there's so much respect within it. Hmm.
You alluded to something when you're talking about that Memorial Cup in Windsor, and I just want to go back to it for half a second, because it speaks to the host team getting the automatic berth, but that Windsor team got bounced by London, just like you took London to 7 games in the second round, but survived. But you had to go through all of that. You go through 4 rounds, and then you're into the round robin, and they got 44, I think it was, days off in between.
Yeah, and people will be like, "Oh, like, they're gonna be rusty." Those guys are practicing hard. You think they're not scrimmaging? You think coach is not getting them scrimmage hockey? Of course, they were probably playing against school teams. They were staying fresh, and yeah, you could tell. You could tell they knew where our bruises were, and they pushed on them. And good for them. They did what they had to do for the win. They got it, but it's just some doesn't feel right about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you said earlier, Cameron, that you were essentially born on skates and hockey was all you wanted to do. You were going to be a hockey player. You win an OHL championship, heartbreak in the Memorial Cup, but you also got a chance at Toronto Maple Leafs rookie camp. At that point, you must have thought that like this is it, right? You'd reached the summit here.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I had an idea that maybe I won't be in the NHL. So when I was at the Toronto Maple Leafs camp, when I was at Memorial Cup, I kind of felt like it was my peak, and it's beautiful when you know it. You know it's your peak because you really sit and bask in it. This is a beautiful moment. I'm enjoying this. Um, yeah, like I'm definitely thankful I hit those summits. A lot of kids from Sudbury, tried and they didn't. And the fact that I got to, I'll always be really thankful. Especially, like my brother says all the time, like he wishes he had the career I had. And sometimes I wish I could have given it to him after like doing what I'm doing now. Like Marco's, he's still reffing hockey. He loves the game, and I do too. It's just I found this whole different path, and um, I'm thankful that I'm on a path. Whatever it is, I have something driving me. I'm very work driven. If I feel like I'm not doing anything productive, it's tough on me. So I definitely like to um, be very meaningful with my work and give it all I got. It's never been 99%. I feel like that's a waste of time. Like we're so capable of so many things. So if you're doing it, do it the best.
I love that philosophy. And I get the sense that there's not an ounce of regret within you in terms of like you did what you did in hockey. You're obviously proud of it, but you knew, like, you were comfortable. This isn't a fallback for Cameron Lizotte. Fashion is essentially your future now. It's your life.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely slowly transitioned from my first piece ever made to my last game played in the OHL. Like my fashion was slowly ramping. I was working on my skills at home every day for 2 years till I quit hockey. And once I left, I had offers to go play in Sudbury my last year. The Wolves was willing to take me for my OA year, which looking back would have been fun, man. Like, but the thing is, my shoulder's done. That's another thing I have to think about. It's like if I get surgery now, it's 9-month recovery. There goes my OA season. Do I want to play with a bum shoulder? Nah, like I said, I want to go things 100%. I can't go 100% no more. My body does not letting me. So that made it easier too. If I was fully healthy, I probably would have been the same choice. I think I was ready to kind of take on my fashion career because I did felt it wasn't my peak. I think if I kept going, I would have been chasing. I would have been chasing that high, chasing that next big peak, but maybe wouldn't have got it. Like that's why I love that guy's story for Montreal because he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't meant to be there, but he he worked hard enough to break whatever was holding him back, whatever path was not allowing him to get there. He made his way, and not saying I couldn't have done that, but seeing him do it is like, wow, good for him. Because I know how he feels because he maybe thought his career was done, but he broke through. Yeah.
Do you take anything away from your hockey career that you use with you, or can you see any connections between what you did as a hockey player and what you do now as a fashion designer?
At the start, I I wasn't really aware of it, but once I talked to more artists around me, they asked why am I different? Like they when I told them my hockey story, they're like, that's why. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, most artists I meet don't have this tenacity, this competitiveness. Like you're most artists are a little bit more loosey with it, but like you're so driven. I'm like, I think it's because of my hockey. Like I grew up going to war. Hockey. I had to fight Hunter Smith. I put I made Hunter Smith have I collapsed his lung when I hit him so hard. He had to crawl to the bench, and I wasn't feeling good either. He got a suicide pass in Peterborough. I hit him, and he got to the bench. He collapsed, and he was out for a month. And his first game back was against me, and he just stood at that red line looking at me. It was like we're fighting, and this guy was known to be the big rig, like the toughest guy in the league, knocking guys out, and um, you know I would just stand up to anything. Like I definitely felt invincible that way. I kind of fell away from the question. What was that again?
It was just the parallels between, and you were talking about that intensity that maybe comes with you into the
Yeah,
fashion world.
exactly. The intensity, like you know, there's times in hockey where like yeah, like it feels like do or die. Like you really put your heart into it. Like, and so I was just used to kind of being vulnerable like that, and I gave it my all in fashion. It was the same thing. Like you know, people would say I'm a man playing amongst boys when I got drafted to the OHL. The OHL prospect said, "Yeah, I'm a man playing amongst boys," because I was a boy too. But I just kind of like I would just throw my body. I don't know. I I trust, and I just would throw myself. And It's kind of the same thing with the fashion. I just kind of throw myself at it, and I put my whole weight into it. Um, yeah, and it is interesting. I do appreciate that. I do think hockey has given me a crazy amount of work ethic and determination, and realizing there's a lot of kids trying to do the same thing you're doing. And for you to get a leg up, you gotta work that extra. You gotta put that extra time in. And um, yeah, I don't think I would be here today without like the push that hockey gave me.
I got to think that fearlessness comes into this too, Cameron. Like I'm just
Yeah,
thinking on that story with, Smith comes back a month later after you collapse his lung, first game's against you. He's staring at you. You got to, you're in for something that night. And taking such a 180 in your career on your life trajectory speaks to fearlessness, at least to me.
right. No, I think you're right. I think that is a good point. And it's to look back at it, I can reflect on it in that way. In the moment, I'm just trying to follow my heart. I'm really intuitive, and I truly felt like this is my path. It wasn't hockey. It's this fashion thing, and I had dreams of me being doing what I'm doing now. I saw it then, and it's weird. It was a weird time in my life because I truly felt like it was like a spiritual moment. It was like something was truly saying that, this is for you. Like hockey was to lead you to this. It wasn't. If I just started in fashion, it wouldn't have been the same. I needed to go through hockey. I needed to go through that. That I always kind of refer it as a war because like some games I was just taping my wrist, putting Vaseline on my cut points. I'm not even getting ready for hockey. like like oh yeah, it was all to, and I never fought angry too. It was always because I had to protect, and it was just my job, and it wasn't my identity. Like I didn't want it to be. I was just good at it. Like my brothers, like my middle brother, like yeah, we fought a bit growing up, and being the youngest, I think I got beat up more. So I think that really toughened me up, and um, I was ready for it. I don't know.
Do any of the numerous fights you were involved in still stand out to you?
Definitely, yeah. Hunter Smith's obviously the one of the biggest ones because he was the toughest guy in the league, and his motive was to hurt me. His father was going around in the stands saying, "Hey, watch out! My son's gonna knock out number three." My parents overheard it. He didn't know my parents was right there. So yeah, like this guy definitely he was known to kind of like just run the fight. If you're fighting him, he's gonna run it. But I stood my own, and that was one of the biggest ones. I remember like every punch he hit me with, I would kind of see black for a second, and then I'm just still in it. Can't say that's good for the brain at all, but I was like, you're a kid, man, and you want to take on the NHL. There's that for me. That was like, okay, this is to prove to the scouts. It was my draft year. This is to prove to the scouts that I can keep up with the toughest guys out there. Him and McCarron. McCarron was a guy I always tried to fight. He was a little pest in Oshawa. He liked to talk and play a little dirty, but wouldn't fight. You know what I mean? That bugged me, and so he finally fought me when he jumped me. Like I was at the end of my shift. Same thing. I threw a big hit on Hudon. This is what I do. I throw hits. I don't care who you are. I'll throw my body against you, and nailed Hudon. He didn't like that. So at the end of my shift, I'm bagged. I'm tired. I go to dump it in so I can get off the ice. As I turn around, there's Hunter Smith. There's McCarron with his gloves off, already swinging at me. I'm like, you kidding me? Now I've been wanting to fight you forever, but not now. I'm tired. But it was a quick fight. But I'm really happy that I got my gloves off in the NHL uniform. It made TSN the next day. I definitely knew I wasn't going to make TSN on a nice toe drag goal, so I had to drop my gloves to get on TV.
Hey, whatever it takes, right? Whatever it
Whatever it
takes.
takes.
You
Yeah.
were on TV in your second career already, or at least your work was, thanks to, well, and you too with that feature we talked about. But I think the coolest part, no disrespect, is the fact that the piece that you made, Ron McLean was wearing on Hockey Day.
Yeah. He, not to be biased, but I think he was like the most dripped out I've ever seen him on TV.
100%.
he actually like looked so good, and plus someone else gave him like this diamond chain, like a totem necklace, and with the chain and the jacket, I was like, man, this guy's dripping. I was like, I'm so proud. I really hope that he felt that too. Like he's like, wow, like I'm fashionable, like I'm looking good, but I feel myself as well. Yeah, that was really a cool piece to do.
How did it happen? Like, how did this come to be?
So it, it all it's just stepping stones, man. Like it starts, put work in, and then next thing you know, a girl reaches out from the Athletic. She's like, "Hey, I want to do a story on you." Do the Athletic. I got a lot of great responses from it, but then it got quiet. I would go back to work, and then um, all of a sudden, I get reached out from John Wiley or some. He's an executive producer for Rogers, and he says, "We saw your thing on the Athletic, and we've been waiting to reach out, and we thought Hockey Day in Canada, no one sounds a perfect time." And I was like, damn, I really wish you guys told me you guys saw that when you saw it last year, because, as an artist, you get down on yourself, like, is anybody watching, like it's definitely a journey of you don't want to be looking for that validation, but validation is huge because you don't know if you're doing good, like in hockey, it's very evident if you're doing good or bad, you win the game or lose the game, but me, it's like, it's so opinion based, and it's very subjective to your success, so to have them, yeah, to do that, they reached out because they saw the Athletic, and it's all stepping stones. Now I did Hockey Day in Canada, and it's off to the next. See what that will bring.
Tell me about the name of the company, Cameron. My French is terrible, but I know there's a nod to Sudbury in there. Atelier. I,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's all good. When I made the name, I didn't realize a lot of people were kind of like, would be harder to kind of say, which is no, it was my goal, but it's just who I am. I'm Franglish, I'm English and French, so people always think it's like, is it full French, like atelier coin, like corner? But no, it's yeah, atelier means creative space in French, and I have a heavy French heritage, so I want to make sure I keep that close to me. And then coin, yeah, that's the Sudbury. Coin is my roots, like the nickel beneath me. A little quote I kind of made up, and that's something I follow. So, yeah, I always appreciate, my family still lives in Sudbury, and Sudbury will always be home, like home. And so, yeah, I love my name, Atelier Coin. So it's a bit of a mix of Franglish, but it's definitely who I am.
we talked earlier about starting in the OHL with Peterborough and how far away that felt from home. Sudbury's still home. I get it. I get the roots, but Victoria, British Columbia now, that's a long way, Cameron.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it is the farthest you could ever go. Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, nothing too spectacular. I was in a relationship, and work was needed here for her, and she had a sister who was dating, well, engaged to my best friend growing up. He was a goaltender for me growing up, so I kind of had some connections here already, and I knew I needed to get out in BC, and um, I wasn't crazy about Vancouver either, and I felt like I was maybe too small of a fish to jump in a big pond. I was kind of scared to, for lack of a better word, I was hesitant to be in a bigger city. I thought I'd maybe get overlooked. I wasn't maybe ready yet. So going to Toronto or Vancouver maybe wasn't in my cards. So yeah, I'm in Victoria, and I have plans to move to Toronto in a few months because I feel like I'm ready. Like I feel like I have the work that I could be in any city, and I could really be who I want to be. So I think Toronto has maybe the most opportunities with influencers, music, athletes. There's a lot going on. So definitely looking towards getting myself there to really, yeah, flourish.
Boy, I'll tell you what though, and I'm sure you know, lucky to be where you are even for a minute, because that is a gorgeous part of the
Yeah, I've
world
been
you're
here
living
for
in.
2 years, and it is gorgeous. It's amazing. Um, I do not miss the winters at all. I don't mind rain. I'll take it, after like being used to so much snow. But yeah, no, I'm definitely I got so much inspiration from here. I think that's what I really took in was the inspiration. And it's a unique part of the land. It has the most diverse trees in all of Canada. We have palm trees, and we have arbutuses, and it's just wild. Some parts look like Africa here. Um, yeah, it's definitely otherworldly, and I'll always appreciate that for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so
Mhm.
help me understand, like I'm a hockey guy. I've been covering the O since before you were in it. And it's we see, scouts watch you play, and that helps you get to the next level. How does it work in fashion? How are you,
Yeah,
Paris Fashion Week, I know is a part of this story, but like how do you get your name out there?
right. And I get asked that all the time, from younger designers, like how'd you do it? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just worked, I just worked. Um, you just start with your community, like you start by just producing, just put your head down, just show the world what you can do first before you just tell the world. Just show them with your work. And I would just put it on social media, and I would definitely try to do things in the community, little pop-ups, and try to get your name out, and um, luckily for all these opportunities that happen in my life, it's been coming to me. Not saying you don't reach out. I think there's a mix. You need to put yourself out there, and you take a lot of no's, and that's okay. If you don't ask, they say no for you. So I don't care if they say no. I don't care. Like, you just keep trying, and there's gonna be someone that will give you the opportunity. But luckily with Vancouver Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week, that's just me putting my work out there and seeing what happens. I put out that energy. The law of attraction. I'm putting out my heart into my work, and there's people that will recognize that and that will want to put you on. So, my first time at Paris Fashion Week was with Flying Solo, and they are a company out of New York. They kind of scout different brands, small brands, because Paris Fashion Week is so big. I'm still too small to like have my whole big show. You know what I mean? Like, so they scout maybe like 40 designers across North America, or even like the world, and they put them in one place. So I was like a part of the show, which is awesome. And then Vancouver, same thing. I got reached out, and then that was huge. And like you said, finding validation, and how do you know that you're growing? Um, thank God. I didn't even know there was an award, but I won best new designer out of British Columbia, my first show at Vancouver. So I didn't even know there was an award. I did my show, then right after they called me out to the stage in front of everybody, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? And they said, like, yeah, like you won this award, the Nancy Mack Award, and which is paying for my whole trip in Paris in a month. So that was the award basically, is like you get to have your own show. So they're paying for my flight, my hotel, the venue, around like it's almost like 30K euros for to do a big show in Paris. And um so that was huge validation, like I'm traveling the world from the sewing machine. You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Traveling the world from a sewing machine. And you're like a one-man operation? Yeah, like you make all of these pieces on your own sewing machine yourself.
Yeah, it's always been me. And I've had really good mentors along the way. I definitely have a lot of older ladies in my life that have been sewing longer than I've been alive. And you got to keep those people around, because I do believe like I'm able to sew on the shoulders of giants. And what I mean by that is people already made the hoodie. There's so much already innovation and creativity has been pushed till this point where I can elevate it from where they took it, you know? And so I can't take all the credit, because if it wasn't for the people before me, I would still be learning how to just to make, just to structurally make something. Um, so, yeah, what was the question again? Sorry.
I was just, wondering at this point, like what the you working on your own, like how do
Yeah.
you
Oh my God.
manage to put out all these pieces?
Right. I was gonna say, like, I definitely hired like 3 sewers in my life before, and I had to let them go like within a few weeks because the quality was not there, and I realized I need to build a team around the sewing machine. So I have my brother. He's graduated from personal relations, PR. So he helps me with like kind of reaching out to people, being more formal with everything because my head's so in creative process that I don't have time to kind of be in reality at sometimes. But it's always been just me, man, and it's a lot. It's a sacrifice. I work, especially on this collection I'm doing now. Like I have the last 2 months and till I have to leave, I have to work maybe 12 hours a day at least. Uh, so there's definitely been a sacrifice. It's to do it all. To do it all, you have to kind of you don't have much of a social life. You definitely have to put some things on a back burner. But it definitely pays off.
I got to think there must be some toll, Cameron. I know that it's a less physical toll on your body doing this, but if you're at a sewing machine 10, 12 hours a day, a different kind of toll or no?
My after my first show, right after the show happened, my body just let go. I was puking in the bathroom at the show. Like I had to do interviews and stuff, but I was in the bathroom because my body just the adrenaline left after the show, and I realized I haven't slept I'm averaging maybe 3 hours of sleep and not eating much because I was nervous that day. Like it definitely takes a toll, and I've learned to take care of my body in different ways to do this because it is a toll. Like your back and stuff. Like you need to make sure you're stretching and you're still taking care of your body because it's going to remind you if you're crouched in the chair all that time. Um, I definitely always tell people, sewing's a lot easier on the body, but it definitely takes a toll on the mind. Like every single like outfit is completely me from I have to buy the fabric, cut it, sew it. Um, I have a lot of high expectations, especially this coming show in Paris. I've won these awards now. I was at Hockey Day in Canada. People are expecting a good collection now. I'm now playing competitive hockey, but in fashion. Before I was just doing it. Like house league, just doing it. But I've been moving up, and it's awesome. It is a tough toll, but I think not much changes. You still need that support system. You still need to take care of yourself. You still need to eat right. You still need to sleep. Um, but it's definitely a mental toll for sure.
I love it. I love the way you put that all together and it connects to hockey. And I know you got to get back to that sewing machine, but let me just ask you one more. And that is around, again, as a kid, it was all about hockey. You're going to grow up, you're going to be a pro hockey player. We talked about those summits that you may have reached along the way, the OHL Championship, the Memorial Cup, that rookie camp with the Toronto Maple Leafs. What does the ultimate success look like now in fashion for Cameron Lizotte?
I think I think I'm doing it already. I'm very thankful that this is a longevity thing. Hockey, your peak is quick. Like you have a few years, and then there's injuries. Your timeline's short. With what I'm doing, I could do this for a long, long time. So I think the journey is what's truly um, is what you should chase. The destination should never be it because I've never knew the destination. Like in hockey, NHL, that's the destination. Here, it's like so much inner value. It's all about do you want it? Like it's just for yourself. There's no NHL you're going for. Like maybe if you're chasing to be hired, like everything I do right now, I feel like is like a portfolio because I do have dreams to maybe be hired by like a massive company and run their design or um, be so booked up where I'm only doing custom work for Met Gala, NBA draft, NHL draft. That's definitely like things I aspire to do is just be um, so busy with an awesome clientele that I'm just sewing things for big events. It's all things I hope for, but there isn't a destination, so I need to focus on the journey. And if I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now, that's the beauty of it. The beauty of creating, just putting something out to life that you had in your mind. That is the peak itself each time. So you got to remember, yeah, like don't look too far ahead because you're doing it right now. Like nothing's gonna change. I'm already making clothes and awesome people are wearing it, like Ron McLean. I just want to be able to sustain myself with what I love to do. That's the biggest goal. I know what I'm doing is not gonna make me $1 million. It's just but the value and like I talked about earlier, doing work that's meaningful. That makes me go 100%. It's tough to do 100% day in day out when you're not invested with what you're doing. So if you don't see me doing this, that's just because I found a new passion, a new driven, new path, new kind of path to be driven on, and that's okay. I've realized with hockey to fashion, it's okay that things change. It's got a tattoo on my neck. It says flux. It changes. Okay. Life is the flow of water. If you want to slow it down or speed it up, it doesn't matter. You're gonna go with that pace. So I think it's important to kind of respect that and flow with it.
It is an absolutely incredible story, and we will continue to watch it with interest for sure. But really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day when you're a one-man show to have this conversation.
Yeah, definitely off to the sewing machine now. But it's my pleasure, man. I really respect what you're doing, and it's been a pleasure this morning. Thank you.